We love supporting and promoting the creators of musical theater throughout the world, and we would love to have your support as well. Go to musicaltheaterradio.com and click on the Become a Patron button, because a supportive community is a strong community. Welcome back to another episode of Be Our Guest here on Musical Theater Radio. I am your host, as always, Jean-Paul Jovanoff. Well, today we will be talking with someone who has 12 seasons of Stratford Festival here in Ontario under his belt, 5 leading roles on Broadway, and numerous other accolades attached to his name. Live from Toronto, Ontario, Canada, I want to welcome to the show the incredibly talented Bruce Dow. Bruce, welcome to the show.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing good.
Good.
And I just want to make sure you're all good and all well, considering
Yes,
everything.
all are safe and sound, and this is weird.
I know.
This is weird. It's what it is, and really compared to the trials of other people throughout the world and throughout history, this is nothing. So it's okay.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I start every one of my interviews the same way. We'd always do a 30-second bio. So in 30 seconds, who is Bruce?
Wow. Right out of the gate. Okay. Born in Seattle, raised in Vancouver, went to the University of British Columbia, BFA in acting, decided I never wanted to act again. So I took a year. I was just so tired of my inner child was screaming, and who cared how do I feel about this moment? I really don't care. So I then did a unclassified year of stage management, lighting design, set and costume design. Then I did a master's of fine arts in directing with a minor in theater history. Then I got cast in the original Canadian company of Les Miserables, and I thought that'll be so exciting and I was cast as a swing, and nobody really knew what swings were back then.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, here I'm going to play all these ensemble roles, and I'm going to work with the people from the Royal Shakespeare Company and learn how they put this musical together, not knowing that our director was going to be the associate director, who was Cameron McIntosh's ex-boyfriend / a failed hairdresser who turned out to be the associate director for Les Mis. So there was no association with the Royal Shakespeare Company at all. But I did sort of study the direction of the show, what little we got from him. And then after that, it was very strange because I had a BFA in acting, but I'd send my resume out to people to audition, and they'd say, "Oh, we're not doing a musical this year," because they saw Les Mis on the top.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd sort of go, that's when I first realized that artistic directors only read the first 3 lines of your bio, of your resume. And it was like, no, I do other stuff. Ended up at Stratford. From there, I've worked in Washington, D.C., 4-time Dora Award nominee, 2-time winner for Best Actor and Best Actor Musical, Helen Hayes nominee in Washington, D.C. for Best Actor in Musical down there. Toronto critics, but awards are weird to talk about. I'm very Canadian and not comfortable talking about awards. And just to correct you, it's 5 featured roles on Broadway. So they were featured. They weren't leading roles, because otherwise I'd be way more famous and have more money than I do now. And I was just in the middle of rehearsals right now for the directing creative team behind Come From Away, and the composing writing team behind Memphis have written a new musical about Princess Diana. And so I was in rehearsals for that. We were in rehearsals and preview when we got the Broadway has shut down notice.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So that's kind of me. I've worked wherever I can work. I've directed at the National Arts Center, Charlottetown Festival, associate director of Theatre Calgary, director of the Grand in London. So I've sort of directed a bit of the way, and I also teach a lot. So I've been teaching around.
And
that's more than 30 seconds.
Yeah, we'll dive into all that stuff. Yeah, it was about 74 seconons, and you know what? I'll just cut it off after 30 seconds.
After 30, just because it's kind of blah blah blah. After
Exactly.
That. Yeah, totally.
So they'll be like, "I went to UB," and then we'll just go right into the next segment.
Perfect.
Awesome. All right. So I want to take it back to the beginning. When you were a kid, were you always into musicals or theater in general, or is that something you grew into as you?
Yeah. I always loved listening to records, and my parents had sort of an odd mix of stuff. But I sort of have in my mind, I have this one year when I was about, I was 7 years old. And in that one year, mythical mind year, they took us to the Vancouver Playhouse to see a play. We went to Theatre Under the Stars to see a musical. We went to the Vancouver Opera, and we went to the ballet. And I didn't understand that they were different forms and therefore couldn't share and didn't like each other, which I only learned later in the real cruel world. But I learned at the time that that was theater, and I knew that's what I wanted to do. And some of it has a bit of a sad background that it was. I found I had skills and people would appreciate that. I always felt like an outsider and a bit of a weirdo, and I think that's a common theme for performers. So it was a place to find approval. Yeah, that was it.
Okay. And then did you go through high school knowing you wanted to do this, or was there something else you
Oh
wanted
yeah,
to do
as soon as I also remember watching the old Batman TV series on television in the 60s. And no, this is true. Like for me, I love it. Everybody has their story. Oh, I went to the Stratford Festival and I saw Martha Henry and I was moved to become an actor. And that's wonderful. She's absolutely brilliant. And why wouldn't you be? But for me, it was Batman on TV. And Mom said, oh, that's not really Batman. That's a man pretending to be Batman. And I thought that was the coolest thing. And that's what I want to do for the rest of my life. But, and I wanted to work professionally as a kid. Parents wouldn't let me. And I think that was a really smart decision. They said, you can do all the shows at school, but, wait till you do that and wait till you sort of grow up and move on, and then you can work if it turns into a thing. Yeah.
So you enjoyed it during high school. You went, like you said, you went to university for school. You mentioned that you kind of turned off of it. Explain that a little bit, or what happened?
Well, I think twofold. I think I sort of emotionally wasn't really mature enough to head out into the world. And also this has sort of been a recurring theme in my life and career that I've always found all of what's happening in the theater interesting, and more interesting than just my part. So there have been many times when I've had wonderful roles and lots of great things to do, and I've loved it. But I've also been standing there in the middle of rehearsing going, why are they lighting this way? That's interesting. Or why is the design like this? What's the bigger theme of the story? What's the so I think at the end of my BFA, I was there's a stage that a lot of actors in training go through that's usually about end of second, beginning of third year sort of thing, where you feel I just don't like this anymore. I'm not getting the same satisfaction. I think that happened to me sort of at the end of my journey through university. Also, I don't think I was emotionally ready to enter the world. Okay. And also I just didn't, I was taught, we were doing summer stock, and one of the actors would come off stage after every scene and go, oh, I really felt the moment and I was in it. And that moment just wasn't living today. And I was just like, I just don't give a rat's ass about any of that.
Yeah.
So I just sort of went, maybe something else. And that's happened to me a lot through my career as well. I've loved what I've done, and I've been very lucky, but I've also always wanted to leave the profession.
I think, honestly, and I feel the same way too. I think it's maybe not everybody would agree, but I think it's healthy that theater or musicals aren't all encompassing in your life, and there's other things, and you're not 100% passionate. It's like parents who say, I love my kids 100% of the time. I want to be with them all the time. No, that's not healthy.
You need some other interests. You need something else in your life. I'm a big with my students. I always talk about, do you have a hobby? And they go, yeah, songwriting. I'm like, that's not a hobby. That's part of your business. Mm-hmm. So what do you do? Like, do you go fishing? Do you go hiking? Do you knit? Do you do decoupage? What the hell are you doing that fills your life? That
Yes.
isn't just, what's the next song? What's the next show? Who's doing this? Who's doing that? And yeah, it happened a little later once I finished my master's and then somehow ended up as an actor. Thought I was going to be a director, ended up acting.
Mhm.
There was a point where I sort of went, okay, I'm rehearsing and I'm beginning to write and compose shows and things like that. And then I just went, I can't escape this
Mhm.
at all. And I lived with somebody for a while, and an amazing man. It was absolutely wonderful. But his interest was musical theater, and I found I couldn't escape it. I found
Mhm.
I was living my career 24 hours a day, and where was I in all of that? Or
Yeah.
where was just something else like physics in the solar system, or you know the history of China, or
Yeah.
what else? There's more to life than, oh my God, did you hear Ben Platt sing X? It's
Yeah.
like, he's wonderful, but oh my God, you know
There's a world out there that needs to be explored.
there's a word, and we're supposed to reference the world as
Exactly.
creative artists. We have to bring that world to the rest of the world, and if we're only examining how our riffs are in this tone in this moment to do with this piece, we're not really doing our jobs as artists who portray the human condition and
Mhm.
explore the human condition and
Exactly.
relate that to each other. I mean, for me, the theater is a temple where we're not addressing God, but we're addressing humanity.
Mhm.
It's where we come together to, and nothing does it better than musical theater, I believe, because it's got that indescribable soul moving force that is music and dance.
Mhm.
um, that we get to go, this is what it's like for this person's experience. How do you feel about it? That's the temple in which we discuss what it is to be a human being. But if we're not out being human beings, we don't
Mhm.
have much to discuss.
Yeah. My girlfriend always like, why are you watching that? Or why are you learning about that? And I said, you never know when you're going to need it, right? I need to know
Oh,
about I need to know about sports. I need to know about science. I need to know about history, philosophy, musical. Like, if I don't
yeah,
know everything, then I know nothing.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
so I like finding someone like yourself who understands
No,
this.
and it's a hard thing because I keep getting sucked into the whirlpool of the vortex of the black hole of the business of the art
Yes.
form of the amount of detail that to maintain a skill set
Yes.
requires. You know all this, but it can suck your whole life away, and then I find you're just an empty box reflecting, your own narcissistic intentions of, look at me, I sound amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're not saying anything, so I don't care.
The worst place is social media like Twitter and Facebook, because then it creates self-doubt in yourself. But maybe I should be watching all of this and spending all day watching this, or what is wrong with me? And
Well,
and
oh, so true.
oh,
So true. And I mean, I've been in awe of what people are, particularly right now, what people are presenting and putting online. I'm just, the amount of creative energy that's happening
mhm,
is very exciting. At the same time, for me, I'm not feeling in a terribly creative space.
mhm,
So it can be a bit toxic
yes,
in terms of why aren't I doing something? Why aren't I doing this? Why aren't I doing that? And and I've been talking to some students as well. It's like, just rest, like let it go. You don't have to compete with what's online. You don't have to post something every day.
mhm.
If you're feeling that creative energy and you just got to get it out of you, do it. It's great. You have that, outlet right now. But if you're not feeling it, don't force it. That's not a healthy situation.
That is some great advice for everybody who's listening. Yeah, just
Yeah, let yourself rest. The whole universe has said hit the pause button. So
yeah,
so hit the pause button. Yeah.
nice, very good. Are you a philosopher as well? Did you take that in school? Just the
I,
Zen of
I've
Bruce.
I've studied a lot of it peripherally, and
Yeah.
my own journey with mental health and psychotherapy and things like that, just to look at what kind of energy the world is giving you, and how is best to handle it that is healthy for yourself. Not always good at it by any means. But I think we are so reactive these days. We are so somebody says X, I have to respond.
Yes.
I have to have an opinion. I have to tell you how, just to be heard.
Yeah.
And it's like, maybe just let them say X. You know, I mean, unless it's something toxic and horrible, in which case either engage or block them. Like keep that negative energy out of your world. But if it's very important. The immediate need to, I must react. Not really.
No, we live in a knee-jerk society now. As soon as something happens, you got to move. No, you don't need to. You could, like, I've looked at something, I've typed it out, my response to them, and then I wait like a minute, read it over, and go, is this even worth it? Like, is this going to help?
Yeah.
Is this even make sense? And then I'm like 99% of the time, I just delete it.
Totally.
There's no point in engaging with this.
There's no point engaging with this, and it's not going to make my health any better. Nope. It's not going to make my situation any better. So yeah.
No. Oh, this COVID's been great for deleting people from Facebook.
It's fascinating. And also it's been great for, I've had friends appear out of the woodwork I haven't talked to in years, and I'm actually having time to go, let's have a chat. We haven't talked in 25 years. Let's talk.
Yeah. It's crazy.
You know?
This separation has brought us together almost. So it's
totally
it's a weird world. Weird.
Such a weird world.
Well, that was
we try to pretend it's so normal that it's always been normal. And then you think, well, why did I get out of bed and rush off to do that? Was that really like, I'm hoping when we go back to normal that we don't go back, we go to some new normal that is actually healthier.
I think we will. I think this has been a great experience. And I've said this to other people that it's kind of good we had this pandemic, and it's such a lack of a better term, a mild, because it could have been 10 times worse, right? If we had got some kind of disease that would have ravaged us, at least now we're prepared for the next one. At least.
Or we know how ill prepared we are for this one, and therefore we'll get prepared for the next
Exactly.
one.
This is previews. We're working through all the problems.
So true. So true. Yeah. Yeah.
That was quite the tangent we went on.
It was.
But that's okay. That's what the whole point of this is. So let's take it back to you and your career. When did you end up at Stratford? How did that work out? Your 12 seasons there.
Stratford. My first season there was 1992, HMS Pinafore, and the stage manager was my best friend from high school, and he's my roommate to this day. And we've known each other for almost 40 years. But that was just kind of I'd done Les Mis, I'd done a couple other things around. I'd done the old Limelight Dinner Theatre in Toronto. We did an amazing production of Brigadoon with 20 people on the stage the size of a postage stamp, but we had a blast. And then I auditioned for Stratford and just got it. Was like, oh, okay, I this will be fun. And that was a situation they wouldn't see me as an actor because I had a musical on my resume, so they saw me for the musical, which was fine.
That seems ridiculous to me.
It's still everywhere.
Really?
I mean, even it's better than it was, much better than it was. I think people have learned how much musicals are great to bring in audiences, but I've also seen people crossing over, and there are more people now in directorship positions who have done musicals and or like them. But there was a period where it was still very much poo-pooed and the legitimate theater, the illegitimate theater. But anyway, I auditioned. Brian McDonald was directing. I didn't really realize his genius until after I'd left the show, which I forgot I did that. Oh my God. No, in the middle of the run, I got a job working at Douglas College in New Westminster as a teacher. I always thought I wanted to be a teacher, which I really do now, and wish I'd taken the job 30 years ago. And I took the job, and so I left to go be a teacher. I got there and realized I wasn't ready to be a teacher, and I was very lucky to come back to Stratford the next year. But that was a really interesting thing. His work was his musical staging was like nobody else's. Visually, his work was like nobody else's. With those Gilbert and Sullivans, he turned them into these absolute visual fantasies. He didn't always get the scripts.
Mm-hmm.
Like he wasn't a textual person. So I think Gilbert and Sullivan is great material, as in it is such incredible social and political satire.
Yes.
So we certainly were running around and dancing through a lot of the social satire, kind of missing the point of it. But it looked great. You know, it looked amazing. It was vastly entertaining. So yeah, and I did a couple seasons there, and then left. I did the first season, understudied the tenor lead, left to go be a teacher. He was very generous in letting me come back. I wrote to him, I said, I've made a big mistake, please let me come back. And he let me come back for Mikado. And I understudied Nanki Poo. Our Nanki Poo got ill. I took over that for the rest of the season. And
Sorry,
that was
what's the Mikado? Was that with Christina James?
Yes.
Okay, I saw you. I saw you on there.
Oh, you're kidding.
No, I must, because I was in Sheridan at that time with Christina. She was my teacher.
My God.
So I know I saw you. Yeah.
She was astounding. She was just, oh my God, powerhouse. That voice was unbelievable. She got the comedy and the social setting. And for a woman who was so very proud in a positive way,
mm-hmm.
To play a role that is that demeaning, playing what was the character's? Oh, Kadisha.
Yeah.
She was. Kadisha is for those who don't know the piece. It's the funny older lady who is in love with the younger person. So she's mocked for her age. She's mocked for her weight. She's mocked for everything. It's brutal. But she just sang the crap out of it and acted the crap out of it. It was just a powerhouse.
Yes, for sure. I loved her. I love Christina.
Astounding woman. Yeah.
Cool. So you did Stratford for a while, and then when did you get your first chance on Broadway?
Oh God, you're asking an old man to have a memory. What happened? Okay, so I went. Oh, that was in the middle. I went away from Stratford for a while, did some other stuff, and then ended up doing Beauty and the Beast in Toronto. We did, and I loved doing that show.
Mm-hmm.
Again, we had a crazy set of directors and associate directors, and a choreographer who used to come in really dragged down, and then he'd go to the bathroom, do some coke, and come out and be really peppy and happy. I hope they can't sue me for this, but you know. Whatever, allegedly.
But there you go. You covered yourself.
Yeah. But he was caught anyway. But then allegedly. But then was doing Beauty and the Beast and did that for a year, and then they were casting Jane Eyre. It was the same time Garth Drabinsky was doing his whole live end thing. Joseph had been running. Phantom was running in Toronto. Did my worst audition ever for Phantom. That's another long story. But he was casting. No, he was casting Ragtime, and the Mervisses were casting for Jane Eyre.
Mm-hmm.
Went in, auditioned for Jane Eyre, did that. Jane Eyre was a strange story. I don't think it should ever have been a musical because it's a woman writing to her diary. But whatever we opened with in Toronto, even though like our first preview, the last half hour of it was played on piano because it hadn't been orchestrated yet.
Oh, geez.
We were working it but it was so exciting and it was so interesting, and it was an ensemble piece, and it took place in the burned out shell of the manor, and sort of the spirits of the story appeared to tell the story, and and it was like Jane would walk into a room, the ensemble would be the paintings, and the maids would be setting up the room, and they would sing what she was thinking. It was a fascinating piece. And it was funny, we got similar reviews to Ragtime in Toronto.
Hmm.
Um, I don't think the Mervish team was ready for it and didn't really know how to pick it up and run with it. So it kind of, and the New York producers were having their own hesitations and kind of pulled the plug. So it closed. Then it revived again 2 years later at the La Jolla Playhouse. And we went down there, and it was a vastly different version that was not sung through. That was not an ensemble piece. It was, um, it wasn't set sort of as a reflective, huge rewriting changes. Um, and then it died in La Jolla. And then a year later, it was like, oh, we're going to Broadway. Let's go. And
Wow.
so that was my first, and that was my first taste of the real Broadway.
Hmm.
Because you go to New York and you stand in Times Square, and it's the most exciting, literally electric place in the world.
Hmm.
And you go see a Broadway show, and it's huge and vibrant and astounding. Um, but you don't realize from an audience point of view that those are old, century plus old rental houses that aren't really maintained backstage. And because, what the audience doesn't see, they don't have to fix right away. Um, while running Jane Eyre, there was an explosion in the rat population in New York.
Oh shit.
Oh, yeah. The show before us had not had the money to get their set out, so they just lumped it in the basement. So the city came in and killed all the rats in the building, but they didn't get their little rat corpses out from under the sets
Holy
in the
shit.
basement. So here you are. We didn't have a crossover backstage, so we had to cross under. Because again, your set isn't necessarily designed for your theater. We had a set design, and we had to fit it in whatever theater it could fit in. So, but so you had girls in $15,000 ball gowns pulling them up, taking a deep breath, and running under the stage so they didn't have to breathe in the smell of rotting rat.
Oh wow.
Oh yeah, so I've come to know Broadway as for me it's Newton's third theory of physics, that every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So for every glittering opening night, you've got a crazy person at your stage door, or a basement full of rotting rats, or your
Yeah.
your dressing room has roaches, or oh, there was another story for another theater. I think it was the old Bertie Jacobs that somebody said, oh, if you're working there, that's great. You go up to your dressing room, you knock on the door 3 times, open the door, flick the lights off and off, close the door, count to 5, but then the roaches will be gone and you can go into your dressing
What?
room. Mm.
Holy crap.
Oh yeah, no, there's like no glamour to Broadway except what you see out front.
See, I wish
So
people would tell these stories. This is way more interesting than like the what's going on the
oh
backstage stories.
oh
The
yeah,
life
no,
lived
doing Diana, we're supposed to go back.
there.
We're packed into the Longacre Theater, which 5-story walk up to the dressing room, no elevator. You've got 5 people tucked in a dressing room that is the size of your dining room table, i.e., the room is the size of the table, not you're sitting around the table. Um, and backstage we call it dangerous Jenga because it's one piece moves off and has to fly immediately because there's no room backstage. I mean, the crew there is astounding and their
Yeah.
patience is unbelievable. Um, our drummer is stuck in a storage room in the basement. I think there's only 2 of our orchestra are actually in the pit because it's a playhouse that has recently started doing some musicals. Um, so, but again, you're on stage, the stage where the original Ain't Misbehavin' played for years, and you
Yeah.
go, "Wow, I'm on that stage." So
Yeah.
there's that, and it's a beautiful inside the theater. It's all sort of a rose pink plaster and gold, and it's one of the most beautiful jewel boxes you'll ever sit in.
Yeah.
Um, but backstage is we're safe thanks to our amazing crew and amazing team, but it's crazy back there.
Let's go. I was going to ask you about Diana because that just had opened and you were just working through stuff, and then everything went to hell in a
Yeah, we
handbasket.
were 10 days from the official opening. We were in you for those who don't know, you rehearse 10 a.m., 6 p.m., 6 days a week. Then you move into the theater and you basically, even though they say it's a 10 out of 12 day or an 8 out of 12 day, it's usually a 12-hour day,
Mhm.
noon to midnight, teching the show for 2 weeks. Then we went into previews, which is you come in at noon for notes, you rehearse from 1 to 5, you get a break, you do a preview at night. So we were in previews. So we're rehearsing in the afternoon. And it was such a weird day because people were talking about the virus. The week before, we talked about some theaters were shutting down their stage door meet and greets. Because always at a Broadway theater, you come out the stage door and they have barricade, but you can sign programs and talk to people. And they kind of, Hadestown was across the street. They'd shut theirs down. We were still doing one that was optional if you wanted to. If you didn't want to, there was another exit. You could leave quietly and not be seen. But so the talk of the virus was in the air. We knew they were talking about what they're going to do. The Broadway League was having meetings, but that day we're rehearsing, we're making changes, learning new lines, learning new dialogue, stuff like that. And then sort of about 3:45 p.m., everybody's Twitter went off, and we went, oh, we knew our lead producer was going to come in and talk to us at some point in the afternoon, sort of update us on where we were. And but everybody saw Broadway shutting down for 3 weeks. And she came in, and our lead producer, Beth, is astounding. Because she was just very honest. She just went, look, you're going to have a million questions, and I don't know the answer to any of them because this has never happened before. And it was very moving. And our director talked to the company that, I've loved working with this company and so proud of what we're doing, and where Christopher Ashley, who directed Come From Away, and just the sweetest man in the world. And for directors out there, a man who can control a room without ever seeming to be controlling.
Wow.
Like he ran that room so beautifully. But it was just like, so go get anything that you think is necessary and that you may need for the next 3 weeks, because we don't know if you'll be allowed back in the building. We don't know if the building will be open. And we'll be in touch. Mm-hmm. And so we all kind of aimlessly wandered off to our dressing rooms, and those of us that had bottles shared them. And then sort of halfway through it, I thought, oh, well, I've got a couple of weeks. I'd like to come home to Toronto and see my fiance and see my friends. And so I booked a ticket and went back and packed a bag and came back. Yeah.
Now you're stuck here for a while.
And now I'm here for a while. Yeah. Very, very happy to be here for a while.
I'm glad.
Yeah. No, and New York is going through a rough time. And as much as I have empathy, I'm, as somebody who has a tendency to asthma and bronchitis, it's like, I don't need to be there right now.
No, not at all.
Not at all. Not at all.
Has the company been in contact with you, giving you updates on things, or is it kind of they said, we're just going to hold off. Maybe in a month we'll get back to you?
No, they have been in touch. They've been in touch as much as they possibly can. We did a beautiful thing on what was supposed to be our opening night. We did a Zoom meeting, and there were 77 people in our room, our Zoom room. Yeah. And it was all the cast, all the crew, the front of house staff, the orchestra, everybody was there, and we all just had a toast and had a talk. And but since then, they've been sending us various updates. We got one a couple of days ago that the Broadway League is still meeting and talking, and we don't know. And we're still all under contract. I don't know how long that's going to go on, or how long that can go on, just in terms of, at some point we're all going to have to earn a living somehow, even if it's, bagging groceries, which I have applied for, to just sort of, in order to make ends meet. So
for sure.
But everything's still in the theater, waiting to happen.
Yeah.
The show was going really well. So
that's good. I do have a question. I'm going to go off on a sidebar.
Sure, totally. I ramble, so just slap me and drag me back in.
No. This is something that came into my head while you were mentioning about your Zoom thing with 77 people, and it was everybody. How much interaction is there between all the facets of the theater when you're doing a show like that? Like between the tech, the actors, the orchestra, the front of house, that sort of thing. Because I work at York University in a small theater where everybody knows everybody, right?
Right.
And there's a lot of interaction, obviously. I was curious about how much interaction, because you were all in the Zoom together. I just didn't know.
There's like when we're in there rehearsing and doing it,
Or once the show's
everybody.
running and everything.
Oh, I mean, while we're putting it together, it's everybody's there all the time,
Yeah.
and for the safety backstage, I mean, the crew working with the actors, it was all choreographed and teamwork and everything, and we have a lot of sort of, because of the COVID outbreak thing, there were a lot of updates from our front of house about how they were planning to handle things and address things and what they were doing to clean the building. So for this sort of particular thing, it was a bit more than usual.
Yeah.
Once I think a show like that is up and running, it varies. It does become more of a job when you're in a long run. I remember with Music Band, everybody got along beautifully, but we'd all just kind of show up and do the show and then go our separate ways. Like, people weren't hanging out together much.
Yeah.
And different shows, like while we were in rehearsals for Diana, we would meet with some of the Come From Away people, and they did hang out more together. Like, that was a group that would go for a drink together. It's also Newfoundland, and Newfoundland inspires alcoholism. I'm kidding,
Exactly.
but it's culturally, it's part of their story. So yeah, I think it varies. Okay. It varies, but also I was married to a house manager for 16 years, and so for me, I mean, we get all uppity about how important what we do as actors is, but we don't deal with the audience. It's the front of house that deals with the audience. They're the ones who actually interact with. They know what the response to the show really is, more than the critics, more than anyone else. Because they have to deal with it. And so I've always had a huge respect for what goes on out there, and a huge interest in it. Just like, how are you guys doing? Because that was true. They were the ones dealing with people who might have the virus, and they were handing out programs to 1,000 people every night.
Yeah, and that's good, because I think that is sometimes the problem I see within theater, is especially with the actors, because they are the central focal point of everything, that they forget that there is the rest of the theater that needs to be taken care of. So when I'm directing a show, I always tell actors, you know what, respect every single part of this company, because without them, you're pointless. You're not going to be seen. You're not going to be looked at. You're not going to be right.
It comes down from above.
Yep.
And I've worked at companies where you've sat in a company meeting with everybody who works in the building, and all the artistic director does is talk about the actors. And you just go, dude, that's a third of your audience, and you're missing the point. If I ever work with an actor who doesn't know the crew's name, doesn't have any clue what happens from house, I'm just kind of like, if I ever get a chance to direct or whatever, they'll be on the lower end of my list, or that will be a learning curve for them in working with me. Exactly. It's the combination of what we do as actors is a spiritual, creative thing, but also it's just wearing clothes and running around in circles. So it's the combination of respecting the intangibles of the craft and having respect for that, but also it's that equal and opposite reaction. You need that to stay sane, to go, I'm really just wearing a funny dress and trying not to fall down. Exactly. So I can't take myself that seriously. And I've
so true.
Worked with actors who you just go, oh, really? I didn't realize you were that kind of person. And you're just so interested in how important you are and how precious your contribution to the world creativity is. And it's like, it's not making your work any better, and it's not making you any more interesting to hang out with.
So true.
Yeah.
So I want to take it back to something a little different, because
sure.
Again, on our station, we love promoting new musicals and new creators, and I see that you've written musicals. When did you transition, or did you from the beginning have an interest in writing musicals?
I wanted to from the beginning. And when I went to university, I wanted to do a double major in music and theater, and they didn't have one, and they wouldn't let it happen. So I decided to do the BFA in acting and to continue my piano studies and my music studies outside. That didn't really work because it wasn't really, the whole idea wasn't really a thing. I probably, because I worried if I did a degree in composition that I would understand things musically, but I wouldn't understand the storytelling. Mm-hmm. And vice versa, if I understood what ended up was I understood the storytelling and the dramatic structure element of things, but I didn't have as much the musical background to do it. So it sort of was something I've worked on all along. I've had a couple of shows produced along the way. A summer musical called Hard Hats that wasn't particularly great, but was a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. A piece I've done based on fairy tales by Oscar Wilde was produced at the Pittsburgh Irish and Classical Theatre Company. It still hasn't found a home in Canada, and I think it has potential. We got great reviews, but and my work was appreciated. Most recently, Bitch Island was produced. We did it at the Hamilton Fringe, and it won Best of Fringe, Best of Venue, Audience Choice, Critics' Choice. It won everything there was to be had. And it's an amazingly inappropriate, funny, but very it's an important social piece because it's putting. On one level, it's a musical appreciation of the 1970s exploitation of women in prison movies, which sounds appalling, and is. But on the other hand, it was cast entirely with men, not in drag, but with men who were just saying that I'm playing a woman, and it put them in the position of having to do what we ask women to do in films.
Okay.
So it sort of turned the spotlight on the audience to straight cisgender white men to go, this is what you expect from women in your movies. Yeah. What's it feel like to do it yourself, asshole? And it's an amazingly funny script, and so it still needs some work, but I think that was, and then I've got other pieces in development that it's something I'd love to do, but it's I've never been one to understand how to get grants and apply for that stuff, and I haven't worked that end of it well enough yet.
If you ever figure that out, you will be the richest man because everyone will be coming to you for advice. Because I don't think anybody knows how to do it.
No, I don't either, and I'm glad to hear that because I sort of feel like I'm the only one who's. And it's difficult as a person in my 50s. Mm-hmm. It's hard to express to various companies that I am an emerging artist in this field. Mm-hmm. Yes, I have an established acting career, but this is new to me, and I need the support, and I need the financial support, and I need the, and I have stories that are interesting that I'd like to tell. So that's that's hard to commit to get people who are like, emerging artists, is anyone under 30? Well, no, not necessarily.
Yeah, I know that feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's funny because I was on a call a couple of weeks ago. It was a group thing, and there's a thing called Startup Canada. It's basically, it helps small businesses, find their footing, help find grants or support, mm-hmm. or angel investors, et cetera, et cetera. And I was talking to the woman. I said, "Is there anything for the arts or what I'm doing with the radio station?" She goes, "I don't think so." Like, these people, these startup people who worry about entrepreneurs and shop local, don't even think about the arts as a business, I don't think, which is weird because you are your own business and you're trying to start your musicals, etc.
Yeah,
we got to figure out a way to do that. I know there's arts grants in the Council of Ontario or Canada, but there's got to be more than that. And if
there's going to be more than that, and the guidelines are in there. They're very specific. The guidelines for application, mm-hmm. And it's just getting so specific that a lot of people are falling outside the wayside. Yeah, which is too bad because broad spectrum storytelling, I think, is what we're all going for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, anybody who can figure it out, let us know.
Yeah, totally.
That would be great. Well,
Totally.
Bruce, thank you so much for coming on and talking to me today about everything. We could keep going because I'd love to talk to you at some point about, Jesus Christ Superstar and a bunch of other things that we just didn't even get to.
Well, anytime you want to, I'm just sitting here. So no, and I know I rambled off in strange little
No, it's cool.
philosophic
I
ways, but
love doing that. I love when that
oh,
happens
great,
because it's
great.
natural. It's
Hmm.
if I set up the questions X, Y, and Z every time, we're gonna get boring.
Right.
And if you knew the questions ahead of time, but I love the spontaneity. We had no idea where we're going. Still don't know what
No,
we're
this
doing.
was wonderful. No,
Yeah,
totally. But I'm open to anything, anytime. This is great. This
awesome.
has been lovely.
Well,
No,
thank you.
no.
Now, before we go, I always
Mhm.
ask my interviews 3 questions. Now, there's no
Okay.
right or wrong answer to these questions, but there is a
Okay.
wrong answer. So, just
Oh,
give you a heads up.
okay.
All right. So, question number 1, no context, Weber or Sondheim?
Sondheim.
Okay. Any particular reason?
Um, I was just because, and this is random, because I was watching Love Never Dies it's on YouTube now.
Mhm.
He's released it. Um, and I'm just going, these melodies are astounding, but there is nothing dramatically happening in that script.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, dude, at this point, you need to know how to tell a story, and you don't. Mr. Sondheim, many, if not most of the books are brutally flawed,
Yeah.
but the storytelling is there in the music and in the lyrics. And I go, that we're here to tell stories. So who tells the better story? Sondheim.
So is that because maybe Weber doesn't choose the right lyricists? Or
Yeah,
like
I
Tim
think it's a
Rice. I love that man.
and Evita works and Jesus Christ Superstar works for those reasons, that they are strong,
Mhm.
strong ideas, strong lyrics, strong books.
Yeah.
Other things, musically, he has some. I think he's uh, but Andrew Lloyd Webber is underestimated in a lot of the composition. If you listen to the Requiem, aside from the P-A-A-Z part, the musically, that's an astounding piece.
Mhm.
But there's something with the books and the lyrics that he's not getting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. That one, there is no right or wrong answer. That's a more of a preference, and so you got that one right.
Okay.
I always accept that one
Okay.
because it's impossible to answer that question because they're so completely
Yeah.
different. But
Totally different.
I
No,
just like to
apples and
hear it.
oranges.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Question number 2. The difference between a Stratford audience and a Broadway audience. Did you find any difference?
Oh yes. Yeah. And even in my limited experience over the last 20 years with Broadway, the Broadway audiences have changed as well.
Mhm.
A Stratford audience is there to see a show, to see a play, to have an experience. Right now, Broadway audiences are, depending the piece, they're more often there to take the whatever ride.
Mm.
It's more like an audience at Disney World.
Okay.
We're going on the Jesus Christ Superstar ride. We're going on the Hades Town ride. We have to go before we leave town. We have to hit the the Dear Evan Hansen ride, and we should hit, because we know Lion King's a great ride. We'll take that ride.
Yeah.
So they're not as much a theater going audience as they are an interactive entertainment experience audience.
It's true.
There is still a very strong theater audience, but I mean, you get something like The Inheritance that was playing. It was a stunning 2 hours, two part 6 hour drama. Amazing piece. But that didn't find an audience because it was really theater.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But people were lining up around the block to go on the Frozen ride. You know what I mean? And that's no diss in any way at the people who are in those shows, because they are great artists doing great work.
Sure.
And the people who create them are doing, but it's just to me, a feeling from the audience. The Stratford audience is there to experience a night of theater.
Yeah.
As opposed to, it feels a bit more like Broadway is there to go on a ride.
Yeah, I guess if you're going to Stratford, it's from Toronto, it's an hour and a half drive, and then you're going there because either you want to see theater or you're in high school and they're making you go see it.
Right.
It's the only two options. But yeah, exactly. You're going there with purpose, where if you're in New York, you're going to New York, and maybe we'll hit a Broadway show.
And yet it's almost financially the same commitment. If you're looking at staying overnight in Stratford, if you're looking at, it's almost as expensive.
Yeah.
To do that. But yeah, no, that's the only sort of difference I kind of noticed.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. That works for me. And I'll give that a correct answer as well. So that's 2 of 3 so far.
I'm so scared.
All right. Third and most important question.
Okay.
Here we go. Audience members eating food in the theater, yes or no?
No. And I find even the sippy cups are a lot. I don't understand. That's partly what contributes to the Broadway sense of you're on a ride or you're at a movie rather than at a theater.
Yeah.
I don't like. Okay, I've had issues with eating my whole life, compulsive overeating, anorexia, bulimia, all of that. That's a whole other episode. But why can we not go in a room and have an experience for an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours, 3 hours, and not eat?
Agreed.
Why do we have to sit and eat? It's like, food in theaters appalls me.
Yeah, I don't understand. And then people leave their garbage on the floor, and it just
it becomes a movie theater. And I love going to the movies and I love having my big bag of popcorn, but I don't need that at every experience. And sometimes you don't buy popcorn at the movies and you can still have a good time.
Exactly. And you know what? The food in the theater, you know what it also contributes to? Rats.
Oh my God.
So there you go. If maybe we should look at it that way. Don't eat in the theater. It'll stop the rats.
It'll stop the rats. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
That was a correct answer as well. You got 3 out of 3. Congratulations.
Thank you. What's
thank
my
you.
prize? What I win?
You get to come back on again, which I don't know
I would
if that's
love
an actual
that.
prize, but
No, it totally is. Are you kidding? You're delightful.
Awesome. Well, again, thank you so much, Bruce. Just before we go, are you doing anything right now to keep yourself busy? I heard you were teaching students. Do you have classes that you do?
I'm offering. Okay. I am Dow workshops on Facebook or brucedow.com. You can go there. I'm doing private coachings online for anybody who wants it. We can either learn things or whatever. If I get enough people who want to do something, we'll do a Zoom class. I will be teaching again at Randolph College this spring. Again, it's going to be some sort of Zoom situation. It's going to be interesting. But sort of I'm doing a bit of that, and I'm also resting and reevaluating. This might be an opportunity for me to change some direction in my life. So I'm looking at what those options might be.
Wow. Yeah. Awesome. Well, congratulations for everything you've done, your long history of success and what you're doing right now, helping students. Because from what I can tell from our talk, you're the type of teacher I would want. Just the way
I love it. I find it the most creative experience that I'm having these days is working with students and just trying to figure out how they listen, how they learn. Each one of them is different. Why are they in the room? Anyway, that's my passion is teaching right now. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Again, congratulations and thank you for coming on today.
You're the best.
Awesome. So we were just speaking with Bruce Dow from Toronto here. And so come back next week because we never know who we're going to speak to, but someone whose life, love, and passion is musical theater. You are listening to Be Our Guest on Musical Theater Radio. I am still your host, Jean-Paul Jovanoff. And until next time, I'll see you when I see you.